1. This past week was my county's fair, which I love. The fair is always a yearly ritual of mine, and it's always so fun to go and ride some random rides and get funnel cakes. On Wednesday, I went to the fair and didn't think much, except that I was going to have a really awesome time. Me and my friend were riding a few of the rides when we ran into her friend and her boyfriend. Some of the rides there you had to ride beside or in front of other people, and we didn't want to be with complete strangers, so we decided to get on the rides with them. The first ride we rode was this claw type of thing where you swing from side to side and went in circles and blah blah. Then comes the ride. The ride didn't look that bad, and I didn't think much of it when I was getting on it. But I'll tell you, in my point of view, when we first get started, it was okay, not much to it. Then it got faster and faster. And the next thing I know, we're on our fucking side. It kept going and going. It literally felt like it was never going to end. Then we went backwards. It didn't help much that I was on the inside of the seat instead of the outside because I was trying not to squish my friend to death while also keeping my vomit down. By the way, I'm bad at multitasking. Okay, so ride ends after what seems like hours, and we get off. I felt a slight feeling in my stomach that felt like I was gonna hurl. I brushed it off and tried to take deep breaths and swallow, as if that's going to actually do any good. We saw the ride next to it and decided to get on it afterwards. We waited in line for a few minutes, and I thought that the feeling had subsided. Spoiler alert, I was wrong. So we get on the ride. It's called Viper in some places, but I'm honestly not sure what it's called at the fair I was at. It started up all of a sudden. It's going like 5 million miles per hour. After a while of being on the ride, keeping my eyes closed and trying not to throw up, it starts going down. Thank God, I didn't know how much longer I could take. Oh shit. I vomit all over the back end thing of the ride and on the grass. You know those moments when something happens and it doesn't even feel real? Like a dream, but you know it's not a dream subconsciously. That's how I felt when I threw up. I knew it was real, but I still think back to the feeling I had when it actually happened. I don't want to be gross, but I ate spaghetti before I left for the fair. And I knew when I took that first bite of it that eating isn't a good decision. 2. I was studying at my university's library and got up to pee and fill up my jar with water. I don't own a water bottle or a coffee mug, keep losing them, so I got in the habit of using glass jars instead. I thought this was the smartest idea in the world. 100% leak-proof and doesn't hold onto coffee stink when refilled with water. I filled up my jar and proceeded to the bathroom, entered a stall, and placed my jar on the big toilet paper holder before sitting down. Usually the toilet paper holders on campus are flat on top, making them a perfect ledge for objects. This one was slightly slanted. I noticed but didn't care and put it there anyway. It held, so I thought it was fine. Midway through peeing, the jar falls, hits the edge of the toilet bowl between my thighs, breaks, and spills water all over my pants that are pulled down at my ankles. There are both large and small shards of glass nestled in my panties, and scattered on the floor. At this point, I couldn't wrap my head around what happened, and just stared at the carnage, wondering if I could reverse time. I gingerly picked the shards of glass out of my pants and underwear, and placed them in what was left of the jar. I tried drying out my pants and undies by dabbing them with toilet paper. When I thought I had everything cleaned up, I wiped and pulled my pants up, only to realize that there were definitely microscopic shards of glass hiding inside my fitted jeans and underwear, right around the groin and butt crack area. I threw out the jar and waddled back to my desk where my friend was studying. I explained what had just happened, and told her I was going to go to our office to change into my yoga pants. We work at the campus newspaper. She looked horrified. I laughed it off, and winced at the glass pinching my inner thighs. The trek to the office was a long one. It was midwinter in Canada, and my wet pants and underwear were freezing in the breeze as the small bits of glass poked at my cold, sensitive skin. Got to the office to be greeted by my boss sitting in the middle of the room. I tried hiding my embarrassment, and casually gave him a play-by-play of what happened, and explained that there were shards of glass in my wet pants. I politely asked for some privacy so I could change. I kind of expected him to chuckle, but he just stared at me, wide-eyed, and left the room. 3. Let me start out by saying this wasn't today or yesterday, or even in the last month, but back at the end of April. I should also say that this wasn't a national jazz festival I was attending to watch bands. This was a festival I was playing in. Anyway, my high school jazz band qualified for the National Jazz Festival in Reno, Nevada earlier this year. We spent months and months preparing for it, and finally got on a plane headed to Reno around April 25th. The whole time we were preparing for the festival, I started coming closer to the girl who was the guitarist of our band. I had really liked her in the past, but over those weeks with all our night rehearsals and everything, I started talking to her more, and it was amazing. She was everything I hoped she would be, sweet, kind, easy to talk to, etc. Well, we finally arrived in Reno and got to our hotel. The 3 other friends of mine who I was in a room with and I decided to find a park to play frisbee at. But as we left, our director caught us and said we weren't allowed to play because it was too dangerous, and she couldn't risk an injury before we played. Fair enough, we thought, and went back up to our hotel room. That night I stayed up really late texting the guitarist, and I had a really good time. 2 days later, it was finally our performance day. Our whole band met in our performance attire, and we left. The walk to the performance area was long, about 2 miles, and carrying a tenor saxophone that far in dress shoes, and all black while the sun was out, in one of the hottest cities in the country, didn't make it any easier. I walked with the guitarist all the way there, talking about how much I loved frisbee and how she should play with me sometime. She said, "Sure, it's a date." So it was really turning out to be a good day. So it seemed. We came to our performance a little late, so we had to go right into the practice room. After a quick warm-up and run-through of our set, we went on stage. The performance was exceptional. We ended getting 3rd in the country, which was, unfortunately, just 1 slot away from being invited to play again in the grand showcase of the festival that night. Nonetheless, everybody was feeling pretty good and I had a frisbee. Bad call. I asked my band director if it was alright to play now, and she said yes, because we weren't going to play anymore. Bad call. I told the guitarist that we were going to play and she said she would watch. Really bad call. And that was how it all started. We started a game of flyers. My trumpet player friend had the disc and threw it into the small crowd we had gathered. Nobody caught it. I turned around and saw the guitarist wasn't watching, which discouraged me a little. Next throw, I tried to go up for it, but it pathetically bounces off my hand and hits the ground. And when I say pathetic, it was truly pathetic. I turn around and unfortunately see that the guitarist saw it happen, and embarrassment hits me like a truck. I think to myself, I'm going all out for this next throw, I need to impress her. 3rd throw. The disc travels way up into the air. I try to track it, tracking. I began running in the direction it was going, tracking. It's getting closer, but is going to hit the ground. Tracking. I reach out my hand, track, wham! I have no recollection of the actual collision. I just remember being on the ground and feeling some stinging in my shoulder. I probably just ran into somebody, I thought. So I stand up and look who I ran into. It was a solid, thick cement pole. Suddenly the pain in my shoulder became unbearable and I fainted. The last thing I remember seeing is the guitarist with her hand over her mouth, running towards me and a crowd forming around me. Oh, you won't believe that it gets worse. Sorry, this is such a long post. I wake up in someone's arms. I thought it was the guitarist, and I reach for her hand, but it was her fucking mom. Apparently she was chaperoning on the trip, and was the first responder to my injury. All of a sudden, an ambulance rolls up. I say no, I don't need it, and instead get rushed to the hospital by her mom. I'm wearing a makeshift sling she made out of our second trombonist sweatshirt, which I never returned. I arrive at the hospital, still in a daze, and get diagnosed with a severe shoulder tendon and 2 sprained wrists. Even worse, and ironically, a week after that was when I was supposed to play in the state finals with my school ultimate frisbee team. Fuck me. But hey, moral support is the most important kind, right? The craziest part about this whole thing is that me and the guitarist are together now, and she's amazing. So, I guess there's a somewhat happy ending. Yay. 4. Obligatory occurred last night. My friends and I are sitting in the basement of our house. Our one friend himself owns the house. He got edibles from Lord knows where, but he's going on and on about them. He wants me to try one that's supposed to get you energized. Alright, sure. We each took half of this tiny Kit Kat-sized edible. For the next hour, nothing. It finally hits a little, and I'm standing on the stairs just laughing my ass off as I try to get iced tea. I calm down and say, oh, that was it. I don't feel anything anymore. Oh God, what a mistake. I decided to listen to some prog music, you know, like the guys in the 70s. I specifically listened to the song Slimed, Terra Melos. I sat there in a punk math rock-induced trance, where I felt as though every time I moved, 4 other after images of the move appeared around it. I snapped out of it. The music was my prison. I threw my headphones off and sat shivering, but I wasn't me anymore. I say, I'm gonna go to bed. To which he just said, alright bro. I sat in bed for a bit, shivering and body aching. The worst part about this time was that I was trying to figure my own brain out. Whenever I realized what pattern my mind was doing, I'd call myself out on it, which would continue the pattern of calling myself. Eventually, I knew I needed to hurl, so I made the journey to the bathroom. I was hurt, afraid, and paranoid. I needed 911. I yelled to my friends to call. They come up and start arguing over how dire a situation this is. But the job gets done. This whole time I'm yelling at them things like, get them here, and why are you abandoning me? I can't even imagine what it was like for them to witness. EMS rolls around and takes me to the hospital, where I spend the next few hours lying on the bed, telling the doctors and nurses not to let anyone in or they'll kill me, and vomiting. I'm finally released at 3 a.m., I remember. It turns out my heart rate shot upwards multiple times and that I could have had a heart attack. I don't know what's going to happen after this, but it's 3:30 the next day, and I'm getting ready to head to work. I don't know what kind of legal work will be done, if any. I'm kind of afraid of the future right now, but for now I'm fine and sentient. 5. It was the first time I'd gotten well and truly wasted, in public and on moonshine of all things. I was going a little crazy as I'd just spent the last 2 weeks adrift in a sea of presidents and policies. I'd left the damn paper too late, of fucking course, so I'd been cramming Kennedy for 4 days solid, before I decided to go to a party with friends to take the edge off. Any port in a storm, huh? All work and no play, right? Yeah, that's right. In fact, this night of drinking and decidedly not thinking about dead men and deadlines, this is just what the A+ doctor ordered. So we get to this party, and some spectacular character produces a mason jar full of apple pie moonshine. Now, I'm a vodka girl, Grey Goose, 'cause I'm a classy dame and shit, and had always come out of the goose haze with all dignity and memories intact. When in Rome, eh? 3 snootfuls in, and I feel the first wave of, what's all this then? As anything resembling sobriety is flushed away, like a snotty wad of Kleenex. After the initial, you're too drunk panic, I have a eureka moment, and decide to make myself vomit, thus ridding myself of moonshiny toxins. I then logic my way into the idea of sniffing whiskey out of the bottle to induce said vomiting. Long story short, I forget my mission halfway to the whiskey and end up doing a couple of shots. Cue next morning. I wake up in my friend's bed, water on the table, keys, phone, even sunglasses aligned neatly beside. My head is woozy, and I have mere flashes of the night before, but I can remember the moonshine. Honestly, I'm a little proud of myself. Just call me Captain Responsible Drinker. I grab my phone to get caught up, and am puzzled. Calls, outgoing calls, ingoing calls, missed calls, from numbers far and wide. My drug dealer couldn't have topped this call quota. Curiouser and curiouser. Hesitantly, I leave the room. My friends, in varying stages of hungoverness, are grouped in the living room. Upon entering, my best friend raises a mug to me and screams, "Just fucking kidding!" The plot thickens. I have a seat and a bowl to fight off the nausea, and the whole sordid story comes out, patched together from the soberest memories and, horrifyingly enough, solid physical evidence. I had put on a stellar show of togetherness after the final 2 whiskey shots of the evening, and eventually the group ended up going outside to the front porch to smoke. I was told that I accompanied them, but after a short while returned inside without preamble. All presumed I had went to the bathroom or to pass out on the couch. They admit quite a bit of time has passed by the time I call friend A's cell phone. She answers in confusion, and there's dead air. She calls me back several times as they walk through the house, looking for me. Finally, I answer and she tries to figure out what's wrong. I screech, "The microwave oven!" over and over again. She goes to the kitchen and asks what about the microwave. The call dies. They continue to search for me, trying my phone repeatedly. Finally, one of them heard a noise in the laundry room just off the kitchen. They call my name through the door and I burst out, blathering like a Babadook, on and on, about how they had gotten him, they had gotten John, and they were gonna get me too. I fell to my knees in front of the counter, you guessed it right, in front of the microwave oven, and shrieked that the ovens had gotten John, that it was a setup. And they had won. Then things took a strange turn. My friends tell me that my grief evaporated in an instant, to be replaced by pure indignation. I shouted that this wasn't over ovens, and defeat is an orphan, and some bullshit, ranting like a buffoon over the microwave oven assassination of John F. Kennedy. When friend A finally managed to drag me off to a bedroom, friend B asked if I liked the moonshine. I apparently said, "It's the best," and immediately followed it up with, "Just fucking kidding," and chanted JFK over and over again as she put me in the bed. I called them and their voicemails, videos, liars, for all the good it did me. I still hear "just fucking kidding" far more often than not. Still haven't figured out what I was trying to accomplish in the laundry room. Although we later found an empty microwave box was sitting on a shelf in the laundry room. Learned an important lesson: if you cannot narrate history responsibly, do not do so at all. Also, drunk me is just a lurching fool. Apple pie moonshine is undoubtedly the best. Got an A on the paper. JFK. That teacher's a bitch for grading my subpar Kennedy ramblings accurately and without bias. B+ for wordiness. God damn it, woman. I thought that's what we were trying to do. Hey everyone, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to 5 True Embarrassing Stories, episode 46. Big thanks to everybody who allowed me to use their stories in this video. I just want to clarify something because I think there's been a little bit of confusion. While I am taking next week off, there will still be videos every single day like usual. I'm just going to be working constantly for the next few days to make sure I get everything done. And then once it's all done, then I'll take my week off. I'm hoping to have everything completed by Sunday, so that will then give me from Monday right through to the following Monday, which gives me pretty much a week before I need to record again. But just so we're clear, there will indeed be videos. And speaking of which, that's what I'm going to head off and do right now. So, until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourselves.